first off, we'd like to thank everybody for coming to our first community conversation on a possible anti-discrimination ordinance here in the city of Glendale. My name is Jennifer Campbell. I'm the Assistant City Manager for the city. So I thank you again for joining us this evening. I've got a couple people that I would like to introduce. First, just a little housekeeping. Hopefully everyone has signed in. You have a name tag, and everyone keeps going, what are those cool dots for? You will get to use them later. We've also got some handouts on the table, and our facilitator, Karen Kurtz, will help walk you through that. But I do want to go ahead and introduce some staff here tonight that is helping out facilitate this great community conversation. Jim Brown, please raise your hand. All right, that's great. Nancy Mangone. Kim Larson. Shannon Rodriguez. Lejeune Boone. Chris Davis. Trevor Ebersol. And we do have, just so you know, the cameras that are set up. We have our Glendale Channel 11 here. We've got Ed Oliver. Where's Ed? All right. And Bill Meyer. Where's Bill? Okay, great. So that is the staff here today that will be assisting and facilitating. So I'd like to go ahead and introduce Karen Kurtz. She's our facilitator. Karen has worked as a facilitator, writer, and grants management consultant, primarily with nonprofit and government organizations. Ms. Kurtz has facilitated public dialogues, strategic planning sessions, board retreats, focus groups, and task force for more than 20 years. She worked extensively with the City of Mesa Diversity Office since it began in 2000. And prior to starting her own business in 2001, Karen worked as the City of Mesa Human Services Coordinator, and she facilitated task forces on homelessness, day labor, and halfway houses. She relocated to Arizona 26 years ago after receiving her master's degree in public policy from the Humphrey Institute at the University of Minnesota. And she most recently worked with the City of Mesa on this exact topic of anti-discrimination. There are several cities that have already done this ahead of Glendale, and there's some that are looking at what we're doing and others ready to start that process. So we're very lucky to have Karen. Also, one other thanks before bringing Karen up, I'd like to thank Robert Height from the Chamber of Commerce. I know that through a lot of publications and advertising and helping us get the word out on this meeting. So Robert, thank you for your attendance and thank you for the publicity as well. So let's give Robert a hand. Okay, and now I'm going to turn it over to Karen Kurtz. She's a great facilitator and she'll walk you through this process. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you. Now, so as Jennifer said, what we're here to do tonight is to have a conversation and really to hear from you. We don't have a lot to present to you. What we have is questions. What you have are the answers to give back to us. And that's what we're really here to do, is to take your point of view, to take your answers, put them all together with other meetings like this across the city, and put it all together in one report to the City Council. The first thing I'll say, I'm going to go through in a minute what this process, how it's going to work. You've got a lot of pieces of paper at your table, and we've given you things as you walked in. I'm going to explain all of that. What I want to do first, however, is understanding that people are going to have a wide range of knowledge about what an anti-discrimination ordinance is, what it does. So I want to bring up Glendale's Assistant City Attorney, did I say that correctly? Nancy Mangone is going to talk about the fact sheet. So you all received a fact sheet when you came in that's specific to an anti-discrimination ordinance. She's going to talk a little bit about that to give you information, and then we'll take a few minutes to answer any questions that you might have, just to get people focused in on, here's the topic that we're talking about. It's anti-discrimination ordinance as well as discrimination in the city of Glendale.
I'm actually going to stand behind the lectern here, and hopefully you can see me over the lectern, which is sometimes an issue. But I did want to go through and at least update you and describe to you kind of the activities the city has taken to date regarding anti-discrimination. It's not necessarily the actions we've taken related to the ordinance, but actions we've taken sort of as the city as a whole to date. You'll look on your fact sheet and you may want to follow along with me, and I'll just describe kind of some of the activities that we've taken. Let me start by saying we first, as the city staff, got sort of a mandate or a request from City Council to do some research about what an anti-discrimination ordinance is. And that started, I think, in October at a council workshop. Council asked us, could we do some research on what an anti-discrimination ordinance is, who has it in the state of Arizona, what it would take to adopt an ordinance, and also what kinds of provisions might be able to be in an ordinance. We gave the council 2 or 3 different options on how we could deal with potential discrimination issues in the city of Glendale. The first was there is a local organization called One Community, and One Community deals with a lot of the issues with the LGBT community, the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgendered community. They have what's called a Unity Pledge. They asked the city of Glendale to actually adopt the Unity Pledge, sign it, and participate in the activities surrounding the Unity Pledge. As you might know, because a lot of you are business owners in the city of Glendale, the Glendale Convention and Visitors Bureau and the Glendale Chamber of Commerce have also signed the Unity Pledge, so they asked the city to do the same thing. I don't know if you'd want to know a little bit more about the Unity Pledge, but the city did adopt it on December 18th, 2014. The council agreed, all the council members signed the Unity Pledge. And it basically says that as community and business leaders, we understand that if we want to compete for top talent, we must have a diverse and inclusive workplace. I won't read the whole thing, but I think that the key provision to look to is it says that we celebrate our employees regardless of age, color, disability, ethnicity, family or marital status, gender identity or expression, language, national origin, physical and mental ability, political affiliation, race, religion, sexual orientation, veteran status, and other characteristics that make our employees unique. So we're looking at the diversity, and we're looking at the inclusiveness of the businesses and the people in the community. As a result of the city signing the Unity Pledge and also some of the discussions we've had with City Council at the various workshops, the City Council also directed us to change our internal administrative policies and change the policies that we have for dealing with our city contractors, vendors, and suppliers. So on February 1st, 2015, we changed a number of the city policies and administrative practices. We provided that the city as an employer will not discriminate against any employee or applicant for employment based on race, color, religion, sex, national origin, age, marital status, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, genetic characteristics, familial status, U.S. military veteran status, or any disability, whether that be physical or mental. We have also adopted in every contract that we have signed since February 1st, a provision that requires the people doing business with the City of Glendale to make the same pledge, to basically, as one of the provisions in the contract, agree that they will not discriminate against their own employees or applicants for employment. The reason why we're here today, why this anti-discrimination ordinance protection is important, is because it's really not found in federal or state law. There are no protections for groups that are based on gender, gender identity or expression, sexual orientation, military status, marital status, or familial status. So those are the things that are missing, that are not covered or protected classes within federal or state law. So what a local ordinance would do, in essence, is to protect those people from discrimination, or those classes of people from discrimination. As I think Jennifer mentioned, this is not a new concept. There are over 200 cities that we know of nationwide that have adopted anti-discrimination ordinances, and 4 cities in Arizona have already adopted anti-discrimination ordinances, and those cities are Phoenix, Tempe, Tucson, and Flagstaff. Mesa is currently considering an ordinance, and Scottsdale actually has considered an ordinance, but it has tabled whether it's going to adopt an ordinance. It's basically put it on hold for now. I am going to, I guess, go through a couple of different things that the ordinances have in common, and a couple of things that the ordinances differ on for these 4 cities. All 4 of these ordinances apply to outside employers. So they apply to other businesses than the city. They apply to all of the businesses that are doing business in the cities in those jurisdictions. They apply to owners and operators of businesses that provide public accommodation, which are basically restaurants, hotels, motels, the kinds of businesses that are providing public services like that. They apply to housing, and they apply to labor organizations and other types of employers. There are a number of organizations that are exempt from coverage under these ordinances, and those organizations are generally religious affiliated, they're private and social clubs, and they could be what's called expressive associations like the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, and other social or charitable organizations. Most of the ordinances, although not all of them that we see in the state of Arizona, exclude small businesses. So the definition of small businesses might change based on the jurisdiction you're in, but all of the ordinances, or three of the four ordinances we've seen in the state of Arizona, exempt small businesses from coverage under the Anti-Discrimination Ordinance. So what that means is those small businesses, in essence, do not have to comply with the ordinance. There are some differences about whether certain groups are protected and certain groups are not. For example, some don't protect veterans, some don't protect marital status, but in general they provide some pretty significant coverage and make up for the coverage that the federal and state laws don't provide. Another big difference in these ordinances is whether there is an independent human rights commission or whether someone in the city is responsible for actually investigating any potential complaints under the ordinance that someone's been discriminated against, and then who decides whether that complaint is valid and has merit, and then whether a penalty is provided for violation of the ordinance. So really, that's kind of what I wanted to go over. The only other thing I probably would add is I just want to make it clear that the way the city does business has changed. What really happens with an ordinance here is whether it applies to all the businesses in the city of Glendale, not just the ones that the city of Glendale interacts with or has contracts with. The ordinance would become part of the city code, so it would apply to everyone in the city of Glendale. It would make it unlawful for a person to discriminate against any other person in Glendale based on an actual or perceived sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, genetic characteristic, or any of the other protected classes that I talked about before. So it would mean things like you couldn't refuse service to someone based on any of those characteristics. So I think there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of questions that you're going to be asked to, provide your input to. Karen's going to walk you through the process and the ground rules on how we're going to solicit that input from you today or this evening. And I'd be happy to answer any questions about kind of what the intent of an ordinance would be and what could or could not be in it. I just want to caution you by saying that there has been no decision on this whatsoever at this point. The council hasn't decided whether it's going to do an ordinance, whether it's not going to do an ordinance, and it hasn't decided what might be in or out of the ordinance. It hasn't decided, for example, what's the definition of a small business, or who's going to be responsible for investigating complaints under the ordinance and then taking any enforcement action. So really what this process will do this evening and the other meetings that we're holding is to get that input from you all as to whether you think the ordinance is a good idea, and if so, what you think might need to be included. What could be in or out of the ordinance actually hasn't been decided at this point. But the way all of the ordinances that have been enacted in the state of Arizona by the other four municipalities so far, they deal not just with employment, but they also deal with public accommodation and housing. So they deal with not being able to discriminate against someone, for example, in making a decision on whether to rent, a commercial unit to them or something like that. Not providing someone service at your restaurant because they might be a veteran. I mean, none of those things are actually decided in the ordinance. It could be part of it, it could not be part of it, but that's an omission on my part. It could cover not only just employment practices, but public accommodation and housing as well.
You mentioned that as reference to laws, that there's nothing for those classes that you mentioned that would give them protection. That's basically from a statutory standpoint, correct, not from a common law standpoint, because certainly there's been a lot of court cases that have come down in favor of non-discrimination in those particular areas.
Well, yes and no. I mean, the Arizona courts have not come down with non-discrimination decisions on many of the issues that I cited. For example, there are federal laws regarding genetic characteristics or age discrimination or some other employment practices, but they don't necessarily go to the full scope. They're not statutory and they don't go to the full scope of discrimination or non-discrimination protections that we're talking about now.
Any other questions before we get on with our conversation? Are we good?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. All right, so let's get to our process tonight. Because like I said, this meeting's mostly about you guys. I have about 1 minute to get through my part. All right, so everybody is going to go through the same process, whether you're at this meeting or whether you're at any of our other 3 meetings that are going to be happening, 1 more in June and 2 more in July. You're all going to have the same questions. You all have your small group that you're going to work with. So this is your group for the whole evening. We're not going to be switching around. Nobody's going to get different questions. You all have a facilitator, and you're all going to get your chances to speak. Now, if you notice when you came in, we asked you to fill out a demographic survey for us. That was just so that we could send information back to the council to say, here's the diversity of the participants that participated in all 4 of our meetings, so they could get some kind of a sense of that. You also got some dots that on our last question, there's 7 questions that you're going to be working with as a group. On our last question, you're going to come up with ideas, and then you get to vote on which of those ideas that you think would be most effective in addressing issues in Glendale. And you'll see more about that. The facilitator will take you through more of that. There's something else at your table called an additional comment sheet. So if there's anything that while you're in the middle of a conversation, if you don't get to tell the full story that you want to tell, or if there's something else that you wanted to say, you didn't feel comfortable saying it in the group, there's these things called additional comment sheets that we want you to write down whatever you want on that, and you can turn it in at the end of the conversation. And we'll also include that with all of the other data that we have. So we want to create as many ways as possible for you all to get to express whatever your point of view is on this particular issue. What's going to happen with all the data? So we're going to take all the notes from this meeting. We're going to combine it with the notes from, we've got 3 more meetings, as I said. We'll combine all of that. We'll put in all the comment sheets information. We've got a telephone hotline. We've got an email address where people can give their feedback as well. We're going to take all that data and put it into one report for the council. I want to assure you that nobody's data is going to be identified by name or something that, people could personally identify you. So there's some anonymity here for you. One thing that we did do is we asked you to identify when you came in whether you were a Glendale resident, a Glendale business owner, or another interested party, meaning somebody that wasn't a resident or a business owner. We did that for a very specific reason. The city council indicated to us that they really wanted to hear the point of view from residents and business owners. We understand that this particular issue, there's a lot of passion on both sides of the issue, so we want all parties to be able to participate, and everybody's comments will be included. We just wanted to be able to identify if these were the perspectives of the residents and business owners, or if they were the perspectives of other interested parties. But I want to assure you that your comments are all going to be included in the report. Okay, so that's why we asked you that. You also have a different type name tag, depending on what you identified, and you have different colored dots. Okay, so that's how we're trying to keep track. It's not going to be perfect, but that's how we're doing it. Let's see, what else do I need to tell you about the process? I think we're good there. You've got an evaluation form that I'll remind you about at the end that you can fill out about your experience from this process. And also at your table, the questions are there. I'm going to give you the ground rules in just a second. The questions are there at the table, so if anybody, some people like to know what all the questions are going to be right up front, so you can take a look real quick. But let the facilitator control the process in terms of facilitating, okay? Don't try and out-facilitate the facilitator. That never works. So just let them control the process, relax, tell us your point of view, you can express yourself, and enjoy the process. I mean, it's an opportunity to really express your point of view on this. Now let me go over some ground rules. You also have those at your table. And first and foremost, I would ask you to be able to listen to each other. So that means one person speaks at a time so that you can hear each other, and use respectful language. I mean, it doesn't look like it's going to be heated in here, but you never know. So, you know, just in this conversation, let's just use respectful language. No matter what side of the issue you're on, we can be civil and respectful to one another. Be specific as possible in your comments, because we are tight on time. 7 questions. We're going to get out of here by 8 o'clock. The facilitator's going to keep it moving. I'm going to walk around and keep it moving. But be specific in your comments. If you say something that's vague or a little abstract, the facilitator may ask you to clarify that a little bit, because that helps give the council a better perspective of what you're talking about if we can be specific about it. Be concise in your comments as well. So if somebody at your table said something that you absolutely agree with, you don't have to repeat the whole thing that they said. You can just say, I agree with this person over here. I like everything they said. And I want to add 2 more things to it that they didn't say, you know, or something like that, so that we don't have to repeat the whole thing over. Now, the best part about this process, from my standpoint as a facilitator, is we do not have to come to agreement. And that's awesome, believe me, because if we had to all agree, that might be a long night. So there are no right or wrong answers in this process. This is all your point of view, your perspective. You all come to this issue from many different life experiences. And so, of course, you're going to have different points of view about it. We're not going to debate. We're not going to argue. We're not going to say, I don't agree with you, and here's why you're wrong about that, and all of that stuff, okay? If you have a different point of view, just state what yours is. You don't have to tell somebody that they're wrong, they don't know what they're talking about, all of that. We're going to record every perspective that's said out there. Also, I would encourage you to speak from your experiences and your observations. So use I statements, use I language as best you can, rather than speaking from some abstraction that you heard somewhere. And finally, as I said before, stay focused on the question at hand. The facilitator, you can help the facilitator by staying focused on that question, so that at the end, we all get a good set of data back. We get answers to all the same sets of questions. All right, any questions about the ground rules and what you're going to be doing? Because I'm about to turn it over to the facilitator. Is everybody ready? Okay, enjoy yourselves. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Now, we're pretty much done with our agenda here tonight. What I'm going to ask you to do, remind you to fill out your survey, your evaluations. Make sure that we get, if you had any additional comments, anything that you didn't get to say that you really wanted to say, turn those in on your way out or give them to your facilitator so that we make sure that they get included in our report. As I said before, we've got a telephone line and we've got a website where you can give feedback. Go to the Glendale website and you can give feedback there as well if you didn't get a chance to say something you wanted to say. We've got 3 more meetings to do, so please tell your friends, your neighbors, whoever that you think might be interested in this issue to come out. Now you can tell them what the experience was, and hopefully you had a good experience. If they want to be heard on this issue, there's 3 more opportunities for them to do that. The next one is on June 18th, right here at this location, okay? And then there's going to be 2 in July, near the end of July. All right, thank you, everybody. Have a safe trip home. Thanks for coming. you.